Welcome to the Project, the podcast with the mission to cover every project throughout pop culture and history. I'm Sam.
And I'm Lewis.
And this week, we watched the 4th episode of Project Icon.
So you threw me off a bit there.
Yeah, I can tell, yeah.
Missed my cue. I don't have much to say and I missed it.
Yeah, so we're still watching,
Yeah.
of course, the Jason Derulo-fronted talent show Project Icon.
Yeah.
We've been watching it for the past few weeks. It's great.
Yeah.
If you want to go back and listen to the first 3 episodes, it's all out there. But yeah, we've got loads of bits to talk about today. Lots of drama in this episode.
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
there?
Some people who we said some things about last week that turned out not to be true.
Right, okay. I'm interested to see what those bits are. But yeah, loads of stuff. We've got some stuff in personal projects. We'll be talking about the 7th episode of The Mandalorian season 3.
Yes, the penultimate
episode. All sorts of stuff to talk about there. And also, I've been watching a couple of bits and pieces, and I think Lewis has been watching.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of films.
A couple of bits and pieces. So you can find those all out in the episode description, and the time codes will be there as well if you want to skip straight to any of these sections.
Or if you just want it to be like a surprise, like it's going to be for us,
Yeah.
Don't look at the description and just listen through.
Exactly. But before we get to any of that, how are you today, Lewis?
Yeah, not bad. It seems to be well into spring now, and we're getting towards summer. It's quite nice. It's still quite sunny outside, and
yeah, we barely even need the light on in here, do we?
It's a little bit brisk today, but yesterday was nice, and
it was hot.
Just have a sense that summer's coming.
Yeah,
can't wait.
Cannot wait.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm not too bad. Yeah, like you say, it's been pretty nice weather. It raises the spirits a little bit, doesn't it?
It does. It's just nicer, isn't
it? Yeah. And before we get into anything, I wanted to mention one thing that came out of Star Wars Celebration after we recorded last week.
Bastards, they should know when we record.
And it's actually confirmation of something that we had a little scoop on our segment, What a Scoop.
Oh, really?
And one Andor Serkis, Andor Serkis has been confirmed to be returning for season 2 of Andor.
But we already knew that. We broke that news.
We broke that fucking news like months ago. No one picked up on it. So fuck you, all the media out there.
Yeah, we knew that. I saw him.
You saw him, and it's the pinned what is it called? Reel on our Instagram.
Yeah,
it's also on YouTube. I think did you put it on TikTok as well?
Yeah, put it on TikTok
as well. So it's out there. It's time stamped. We fucking broke that news.
We fucking broke that news. Yeah.
So
that's cool. That's good to know.
Yeah,
I enjoyed his character in Andor. So
actually, there was a couple other bits. Some HBO stuff. Our friend HBO Max down the road has decided to remove the HBO from his name, and they're just calling it Max now,
which is weird because it's literally Max down the road. He got rid of his horrible body odor.
He did indeed.
I've actually got a bit of project news about HBO Max.
Okay,
sorry, about Max.
Yeah, was it in relation to any of the new series and stuff that's
It's
coming?
About something that's been announced.
Okay,
as a
cool.
series.
Well, I was going to mention stuff now, but we'll leave it for then. I can tail off that. So yeah, in regards to that, what's that juicy old segment called then?
Oh, you mean Project News?
Yes, juicy as ever.
So as always, I've googled the word project, so what news is out there. I'll go straight in with the Max one.
Yeah,
I'm still going to be calling it HBO Max for the foreseeable future, I think.
Yes.
Which is Harry Potter TV series finally confirmed. HBO Max announces new project with J.K. Rowling.
Yes.
So I mean, the article is just what it is. That we all know.
We all know what's going on there.
But what do you think about this?
I'm a bit torn because I like the idea of them giving a full season of a show to each book each year. You know, digging into those details. I mean, I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. I've never read past 6 or something like that. 5 or I think I read Order of the Phoenix, so I don't think I read the last.
Gave up during the first quarter of Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah, when it was first, and we were pretty young at the time. I think I was reading it then, and I was kind of like, but people seem to suggest that there's lots of bits that could be covered better.
Christina's a huge Harry Potter fan and always tells me stuff about like what's missing. So yeah, I'm quite mixed on it because the idea of having a book series put into a TV show is great because you can do the whole season per thing, and you can add in details that are cut from the film,
which is we've spoken about a couple of times recently with adaptations,
and like they could the casting could be. I mean, the casting's going to be a shame because the cast are so good in the film.
Yeah,
but you could do things like everyone in the films, all the adults are too old compared to their book counterparts, like where it doesn't really make sense in a lot of ways. That can be more accurate and things like that, which could be interesting. And like with the early season of Game of Thrones were really good because it was just book to season stuff.
Yeah.
And then it kind of petered off as they spread out and had no more source material. The other side of that is that like the last Harry Potter film was like 12 years ago. Like it's still fresh in the memory. It seems a bit quick to reboot it.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I heard before this was officially announced, it was in the ether for the last week or so. It had been kind of leaked. And there was lots of people saying that HBO, Warner Brothers want to get the Cursed Child film out, and they're leaking this as a way to kind of get it out there and have people go either or yes, and also a way as like a bargaining chip for the original cast. But realistically, none of them need it. Well, maybe one of them needs it, but no, most of them don't need it. And they don't really feel, I don't think they want to return
From what I've heard as well, the Cursed Child story is bonkers and terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested. I was supposed to be seeing the play at some point. I don't know if we'll still see that, but I would quite like to see it. I've heard the play is quite fun because they do a lot of inventive stuff with the
apparently it's good scene, good stuff, but the story's
I think it's like time travel and stuff, isn't it? I don't know too much about it.
I can't remember. I remember reading the plot on Wikipedia once, just thinking like, it sounds like bad fan fiction.
Yeah.
There's also the other element of this that is J.K. Rowling,
of course,
who's revealed herself to be an awful person in the last few years, and it's like, more money to J.K. Rowling.
And it's the same thing with the game, which is, next gen versions came out a month or so ago. The current gen or last gen versions, I suppose it would be, are coming out later this month, and there's been mixed reactions in that I think people really like the game, but again, it's profiting somebody who is inherently an awful person, and at least from the views that we've heard expressed recently.
Yeah, and again, I'm mixed on that because I've heard like, it's a great game and people really like Harry Potter. They can separate the art from the artist as we all do in different ways.
That's the thing. Like people say that, but then like iPhones are made with like terrible
and there's the thing of like giving
sort of
money to such an awful person. It's like, but she's also like a multi-billionaire who's got loads of money anyway. It's not going to make any difference.
We watch stuff on Amazon Prime. We order stuff through Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's like Now TV, Sky, Rupert Murdoch. We covered the Lazarus Project. Like we can't. BBC,
But I will say, if you can sail the 7 seas to watch this instead, that's probably a good idea.
Go to old Max down the road.
Yeah,
OG Max.
I'm intrigued to see how this comes out because obviously the casting's going to be a big thing. And I also think one thing
is also setting kids up for 10 years of misery, really, isn't it? Like, because they're going to be constantly asked about J.K. Rowling's views. It's a fucking minefield.
I think the other thing that it'll be hard to replicate from the films is the score, because the Harry Potter films are iconic music. It's great music throughout the films, and it's one of the real highlights. And it's like, they can't just use the same thing.
I just wonder, like, they're going to have to do something to make it both visually and kind of tonally different.
Yeah.
So either what they'll probably do in terms of tone and setting is they'll make it set in that kind of 90s time period that it was kind of vaguely set in with the films, but it didn't really ever.
But again, with that as well, like the films, like the first, I would say 2, tonally and like colors and stuff are very bright, and then as it progresses, it gets
Columbus
more,
thing, isn't it? And then it
gets Columbus eyes.
Yeah. Well,
But like, so it's hard to be like, oh, we're going to do a different tone, because it's like you're either going to do the tone from the early films, or the tone from the latter films, and it'll be compared to.
I feel like they'll probably do some sort of quite stylistic kind of, almost more like a gothic kind of. Not like Tim Burton Gothic, but like they've got to have some sort of distinct thing.
I wouldn't mind if it was like an animated series.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
You could do stylized. You got less like, oh look, they're casting this person as this, because it's like, oh, actually just make an anime. And you could go wild with the magic.
You could go wild with the magic, and it also means that you can have that longevity with casting where they look the same, they age up appropriately. Maybe swap out voice actors when they kind of reach adolescence.
Again, that's one flaw I find with the films, is that in the second half of when there's more like battles and stuff, it's just shooting lasers at each other constantly. It gets a bit dull.
Coloured. It's like Ghostbusters beams, isn't it?
Basically? Yeah, exactly. It's actually, if they could do some more fun magic, then that'd be cool. But I'll wait and see. I'll probably see what the reviews are like when it eventually gets made, because it's going to be a couple of years, isn't it?
It will be a while off. Yeah, I don't imagine. And that's the, if it's, I think somebody said something like 10 years, but I guess that's allowing for all the kind of breaks in between. And the thing as well, in terms of casting, we've seen it with Stranger Things, they age out so quickly. Like they managed it with the first few Harry Potters quite well.
I think because they're going to have to be really strict with like scheduling, because I mean they do have the advantage that each book is a different school year. So if they do release it like once every year, then they would probably age appropriately, but it sets that time constraint of like, right, you need to hire a 10-year-old for the next 7 to 10 years and record every year on schedule for the next 10 years.
And then these people won't want to come back and do anything ever again, as with the original cast, because they'll be sick to fucking death of it. Yeah. But it's a minefield, but
it's interesting, and there's going to be a lot of talk about it between now and when it's released.
Well, there was a couple other HBO announcements. I don't know if they had their own version of Star Wars Celebration D23. It must have been something going on.
Max World.
Maxland. Was it Max Payne? One of the things that was mentioned goes off Game of Thrones you mentioned. They are doing a Duncan Egg series.
Nice.
They've called it something else. It's called like The Knight's Tale.
Is it The Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
It may be that,
because I think that's what
is that the overall?
Yeah, like the collection of Duncan Egg novellas.
Right. Yeah,
I think it's something I got that for Christmas.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
I haven't read it yet. But
I think it's very early days, and it's kind of putting the feelers out. It may be timed for after House of Dragon finishes. So it might be a way off.
House of the Dragon has been very well received. And again, it's got the advantage over Game of Thrones that it's a story that's like been finished.
And shorter,
It's
a true limited series.
I think it's like 3 or 4 novellas, so like
it's 3 series, hopefully.
Or even less, really. Because they're shorter books.
But and another one they mentioned as well was the Penguin series, which is filming at the moment.
My mind.
The Batman.
First I went to Penguin Books, and I was like, what are the different? But Penguin have a load of books, and then my next thought was Pingu.
I thought you were going to say.
And I was like, they're making a Pingu series, but like what? Live action Pingu series? I'd totally watch that.
Dark Gritty reboot. No, they're filming it at the moment, and there was like a mini teaser which was a combination of stuff.
Is filmed. It a Penguin we've seen? Is it?
It's Colin Farrell straight off. Cool. And it's him taking over as crime lord. It looks quite fun.
Cool.
It looks tonally the same. Like he's got a couple of bits where he's being a bit brutal and stuff like that. And it looks genuinely.
I wonder how similar it'll be to Gotham, because Gotham obviously had a lot of bit. The Penguin was a main character in that, and it is a lot of his rise to power as well. So. Although there's lots of different ways of doing it.
I think it'll probably form quite a nice kind of interim between the two Batman films as well, which is quite fun. As we've said loads of times, neither of us really watching too many trailers, but because it was a production / teaser thing, I thought I'll give it a watch, and it was exactly what I wanted from it. So good news all round. So.
And the last bit of project news I've got is from the Evening Standard. Now, I'm just going to ask you an open question. Do you happen to be watching Channel 4 on Friday night just gone?
I don't think so. Why?
If you had, you might have come across the new Channel 4 series, Project Home.
Holy shit. Okay.
So far, there's one episode. It's basically, they said it's Changing Rooms meets The Sims. And it's
what the fuck?
It's people with a budget that are doing up their house, but they do it all in like virtual reality first to see like how it looks. And it's
that sounds absolute nonsense.
It's Kunle Barker, who's like a house expert, and Nick Grimshaw presenting it. And there's only one episode. I think there's only going to be one episode for now. They might just do random ones. Where this couple have got a house, a £70,000 budget, and they kind of disagreeing over what they want to change. So they set it all up in like virtual reality.
Right. Okay.
And the episode showed Friday just gone on Channel 4, and I was like, oh, okay, this could be weird.
So, are you suggesting we go straight from Icon episode 6 straight to Project?
Maybe. Well, the fact is that it's only one episode. I guess we can wait a bit because it's not an ongoing series, but that could be quite fun. And it's on 4OD, so it's easy for us to watch.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah,
that's
I was like,
fun.
okay.
Yeah, okay. No, I didn't watch that, and I had no idea. No,
I didn't think so because neither did I.
No, I feel like one of us would have sent a message to the other one.
In fact, Friday night when it was on, I was here. We were playing a game.
Oh yeah, okay. Fair. You're asking me that question. I'm like, what was I doing on Friday? It's like, did I miss some massive news on the? On the telly?
No, I was here. We were playing a board game.
We were. Fair. Okay. Well, maybe we can a bit of on-pod planning here. Maybe we can go back to the regularly scheduled terrible sci-fi / action movie, and then go to that afterwards.
Yeah.
Have a little break from semi-reality TV there.
Yeah, I think that would be fun.
See how we feel. But no, it'd be nice to get that covered. Pretty soon.
Why not? Why not?
Nice.
So let's go into Project Icon.
Speaking of semi-reality TV,
episode 4.
Yeah.
So for those that haven't listened, which are cool. If you join us at this point, cool.
Yep.
But it's a reality TV show on BBC Three, created by Jason Derulo, where he's got 10 amateur singers who want to be
Unsigned
pop stars,
artists,
and it's not like your classic talent music show. This time they have all sorts of different challenges, like making TikToks and remixing each other's songs, and it's quite fun. We're now down to, going into this episode, 5 people going into this episode, so half of them being cut. Jason Derulo is joined by Frank Harris and Becky Hill as his judges, and it's kind of presented by Jordan North, but it's more just he pops up every now and then.
I think from what we've seen of like the social posts of the contestants, I think he was probably more involved on set, and maybe we're not seeing a lot of that.
I actually, first tangent of the show, came across Jordan North's podcast. Have you seen it?
No.
It's called How I Sexted My Boss.
I've heard of that before.
It's him and like an etiquette specialist who used to like get people ready to meet like the royals and stuff. And it's basically people send them stories and they talk about like the correct etiquette in this situation.
I've heard of that, yeah.
And do you know what? It's really good.
Is it?
Like Jordan North is really funny. And I was like, I feel like I haven't been too complimentary on Jordan North on this.
No.
Because he doesn't do much.
There's not much of him in this.
But on that, I'm like, oh yeah, this is Jordan North, like at his most natural. Like,
well, the thing is, he's a Radio 1 presenter, as we've seen in the tease for next week's episode.
Yeah.
And you don't often get to be a Radio 1 presenter without a bit of kind of charisma and kind of being able to think and joke on the spot. And we just didn't really see that in this.
It's quite a good like back and forth with his co-host, because he's like some like northern like radio presenter with a guy who literally did etiquette with the royal family. So it's like
bit of a
juxtaposition. But that's quite fun. But back to Project Icon. Going into this episode, I had 3 contestants left over from our little sweepstake. You had 2.
Yes.
You had Mia and Nena. I had Dylan, Amel, and Barry.
Yes.
We said things could go either way. It's hard to tell who's going to go out on this show until you see the episode.
I was going to say, actually, because we never really put any stakes on that sweepstake, as it were. And as we've kind of moved through, we've lost people one at a time, and most of the time it's worked out fairly favorably split. And I won't, most people who are listening to this will know how this goes. We won't talk about that until we talk about it. But do you want to put any stakes in there at all?
I mean, we could. We probably should have done this at the start.
I know we should have probably done this at the start.
What are you thinking?
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, the obvious thing would be just like a $5 on the winner.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
but that's
it's not
a bit
super
boring.
Well, we can mull it over as we talk through this episode. If anything of note comes to mind, we can talk about it towards the end. I just thought it's worth bringing up because it adds that little. Because at the moment it's like, oh yeah, they're my people, but I feel like there needs to be a little bit of a oomph there.
Whoever wins gets to go out for dinner with Jason Derulo.
All right, Jason, we know you're listening to this. You're up for that? Make it happen.
Yeah, come on, Jason. You got the power. So going into this episode, it immediately kicks off with tension between Amel and Nena.
Yes.
And that is the theme for the episode.
It is. And again, every episode we seem to get a new drama pairing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of that is we're not being shown this prior to the episode.
Yeah.
Or if it's, I don't want to say manufactured, but maybe
or it
maybe
comes
they're
up
pushed
in certain situations.
Yeah, maybe they're pushed in a certain way.
This is what I was referring to at the start, because last week I described Nena as being like really sweet and nice, and in this episode
we definitely see a different
brutal,
side.
and it is brilliant.
There's a bit of shade, I'll say that. Yeah.
Amel says that Nena is her biggest competition, which I think where a lot of this comes from.
That's right.
And Dylan comments out like at this point everyone's going to start getting cutthroat.
Yeah.
Which, I think you may have sent an Instagram post between Barry and Dylan last week where Barry kind of apologized for Dylan for something.
Yeah.
And I thought I didn't really see much of this, so maybe they cut out some drama there.
I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I saw something somewhere that said something.
Yeah.
And
I was expecting maybe drama between Barry and Dylan.
Yeah.
No, it's Amel and Nena throughout this episode.
It is. I mean, there's a bit of, like I say, like shady kind of comments between the other group and Amel and Dylan's group. So maybe that's kind of what was being apologized for. But speaking of penguins, there's a couple of comments.
Yeah.
They talk a bit about this challenge is supposed to be to do with their range, their versatility, and their pop star quality.
Yes.
Or that X factor.
Yes. This one isn't the voice at all, is it?
It's still there. They still had to record vocals for it.
Yeah, I guess. And we see how much of a pop idol they could be, perhaps. Becky Hill is still on tour.
Yeah, she's not there again.
It just makes me laugh every time. It's like,
And it's funny because they compensate again by giving her a few talking heads in the first half.
But basically, this challenge is a music video challenge. So they're going to split into two groups.
Yeah.
And make a music video where they've covered over the vocals. And they've got special help.
They do.
From Ollie Alexander.
From Years and Years.
Yeah. I hadn't heard of Ollie Alexander, but I do know Years and Years.
Okay, I was going to ask you, what's your experience with Years and Years?
I've heard some of their songs. I'm like, yeah, that's
Did you know the two songs?
I knew the two songs.
Okay,
and I was like, it's kind of pretty decent pop
like
stuff you hear on the radio.
I've actually seen them, I think, twice now.
Okay. Yeah. Big fan.
Yeah, big fan. No, it's both at Glastonbury, so it wasn't paying to see them. But at least I think I saw them, like 2017 or something like that, and then once quite recently as well. So yeah, I have seen them. I don't sit down and listen to them a lot, but especially the songs that they cover in this, King especially.
And they say they're gonna be playing the video to Ollie Alexander in person, and so that is the key. I don't know if it's this point or later on, but Jason goes on a bit about how important music videos are. And I was sitting there thinking, I don't think I've seen a music video in 5 years.
Really?
It used to be a big thing, switching between MTV, Kerrang, MTV Rocks was a big one for me. Scuzz. I loved Scuzz. But when I was younger,
you're getting a bit of a background on us there, aren't you, between those two comments?
Yeah, younger, I was always skipping through music channels.
Yeah, I think for me, if it's an artist I like and they release a single, I will quite often then go and watch the music video afterwards. But it's not in the way that Jason's talking about, because I understand it, because a lot of the time they'll release the single and then a month or 2 weeks later, somewhere in that range, they then release the music video, and it's a second life to the single, and it is important in that kind of lifeline. And
don't get me wrong,
timeline of
I'm aware that this is me. This isn't the general audience, because you still get music videos hitting 1 billion views on YouTube.
I think quite often, if one is if enough reporters are slipped a $5 to write a headline about it, which is, I'm pretty sure the way these fucking things work, and it comes up on my feed, and I'm like, oh, Doja Cat's new video has this and this. I'm like, oh, I'll watch it, Or if I like a song, maybe years later, I'll end up watching the music video and be like, yeah, pretty fun.
I don't think Doja Cat's video would have appeared on Scuzz or Kerrang.
No, I don't know how old she was at that point when those were around.
Well, I think they're still around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, they decide that because she was the best person last week, which they've decided.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
They did say last week, but
yeah.
I was like, I don't remember them saying outwardly. But yeah, anyway, Amel was the best last week.
Yeah.
So she gets to pick the groups.
Yes.
And
because of the uneven split, it's a 2 and a 3 group.
Yeah, and she says she wants to be in a smaller group, which I think is the right decision because there's less back and forth, less people making the decision.
It's validated very quickly. In this episode,
and she picks Dylan because they're quite close, which I don't think we'd seen much of before, but
no,
they seem similar.
We've spoken before about their styles. They're both guitar players. I know Nena plays guitar in the first episode, I think, but in terms of their kind of preferred recording style and performing style, it's
and they're both kind of a little less mainstream genre-wise than
poppy,
the others.
Yeah.
So it's like, it kind of makes sense. And then Nena's like, I don't want to be in a male's group anyway. I was like, yep, no, she doesn't.
Yeah, definitely some conflict early on there.
So yeah, Nena is grouped with Barry and Mia.
Yeah, Barry's very happy with it, I remember.
And yeah, Barry's like, it's better than being their group that are all kumbaya.
Sit with the guitar.
I was like, wow, Barry.
Yeah, it's nice actually because we didn't see that much Barry talking head stuff in the last episode.
Yeah.
Because I think like Amel kind of took that place in the last episode.
And they get given the song, 2 Years and Years songs, which are King and
Shine.
That's it.
So Dylan's group, they say Dylan's group, but it's Amel's group really. But Dylan's group Dylan and Amel get King, and then Nena, Mia, and Barry get Shine. Yeah.
And Jason brings out his choreographer friend, Jeremy Strong.
He's also the music video director as well, isn't he? So
and kind of... do you know what? He's great in this episode. I fucking loved him.
He's so... He looks like he should be on camera. He's so expressive in his face. He's doing these wide eyes.
And he's so like genuine.
He's so genuine, but in a way that is helpful for some people and really unhelpful for others. Because I feel like the way it's shown to us, I mean, he's very complimentary of certain things with Dylan specifically, but there's certain comments with Amel where it's like, that's not a helpful thing to say. And then with the other group, he's like, wow, you're all snapping, you're all popping. You're like, so it's obviously the way it's shown to us.
But and I feel like him more than like people they've worked with before, like the producers and stuff. He is a direct in between the contestants and the judges.
They say that
he reports back to Jason.
Exactly. There's a point where he goes back and he's like, "I'm halfway through. I'm talking to you now," and I'm like, "So are these music video shoots going on concurrently? Like, I really don't know the logistics of it."
I think they said they are
because it's the same club, isn't it?
Yeah,
and it's
just
in
like
the bar
upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah, fair.
But first we look at Amel and Dylan. Amel's not very confident because she says she dances like a dad.
Yeah.
Whereas Dylan is like, I've made music videos before, and he's like super excited for this.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, Dylan's fun.
But that's good. It works well for their team, I suppose, doesn't it, as well? I do feel like, so they say early on that like they have to come up with the idea for this music video, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's good for the challenge, but it's also not necessarily realistic for what it would be like. I don't know how often the artist, they might have an idea, but it will be developed by the director. Or
I reckon like kind of smaller artists probably lead it a bit more. Bigger artists, I think when you're like a big pop star, it's probably chosen for you, unless you're an absolute superstar like Taylor Swift, who probably has more say,
more
and like
control,
Beyonce probably.
Yeah.
But like maybe someone like Doja Cat probably is just told what to do.
You'd have like a director with a vision come to you, or they'd have to fight it out amongst other people.
I guess people like that do tons of videos, so it's like they can't come up with an idea for every single one. So you've got to come up with at least one.
I just felt like it was a little bit not unfair, but it was like a little bit extra on top of having to perform as well. But then I suppose the idea is that then they have to then fulfill what they've said, so they're not going to be put in a position of doing something that they're not uncomfortable. Because it's like, imagine it was like, you all have to wear like skimpy clothing and dance around, and they're like, actually, this isn't what I would want to do. And then it's like, well, you should have decided then. Do you know what I mean? Like, I suppose it works for individuals.
Yeah, Mel and Dylan come up with their idea of them like working at a bar. And then show that having a laugh. And I was like, that sounds quite fun. It sounds like a music video what you can do.
Yeah, and they made it work with the lyrics of like Under Your Control, and it's like a job they hate, and they're kind of coming out.
Yeah,
and they mentioned doing a bit of choreo with the mops.
Yeah,
and I think the director kind of says, get that dad dancing in there somewhere. It's kind of part of your
which
unique
maybe works against them later on.
Well...
Whereas the Mia Barry Nana group seem to be having quite a lot of creative differences.
Yeah,
and Mia says that she's worried about Barry taking over because that's what Barry does.
Yeah,
and
yeah, you can feel it in that part there.
Mia is, I mean, we said last week when Mia was in the sing-off that if she's down there again, that usually means you're done.
Yeah, it does.
So she needs to kind of take on their advice. And she does seem to be like, right, their main thing last week was like, you need to be more confident, show yourself.
Yeah, we
and
do
she's
see
like,
that in there,
yeah, okay, I'll do that. And I was like, yeah fucking hell, Mia, she nailed it.
It's the part you're saying with Barry is when they're doing the guest vocals in the studio with the vocal director, and there's a part where Mia's in the booth singing, and Barry kind of chimes in over the overhead and is like, we need you to kind of feel it a bit more. And I think then it goes to her being like,
fuck off, Barry.
Fuck off.
We then get her talking ahead with Amel, who's saying she didn't want to work with Barry or Nena because they're both big personalities who try to take over. So she's like, so what I'll do, I'll put them together so they have to fight it out. And she literally goes, like, Amel, more than anyone else, seems to 100% know that this is a competition. And I fucking love it.
I'm all here for it, honestly.
Although it's also funny that like she's the one that seems to build like the strongest relationships with other people. And at the same time is the most like, fuck you all, I'm here to win.
Most aware of the competition aspects of it.
Which is just quite funny.
And we also get a bit here where Barry says that he really feels like he needs his moment. And it's something that we've mentioned a couple of times, that it feels like it's the way it's been edited, but maybe it's just the way that the show's gone so far. He hasn't really had a chance to. He had the time when he did the cover of Nena's song, which was last episode, where he really kind of showed himself off, and I think he wants to kind of ride that wave going through.
He says he's never been the front runner, so like generally they've had different front runners each week. Like Dylan was the first front runner. Mia's been front runner. Nena's been front runner at some point. And Mel's now apparently the favorite, but it's never been Barry. Even though he's in the final five and has never been in danger of getting knocked out.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah.
So he wants to end that basically. So they give their idea to Jeremy.
I love how Jeremy's just like, just do a bit of a dance and we'll just see what happens. And it's like, that's not how this works.
No.
Maybe that is like the starting point for a choreo, but it just seems like, it just seems mean. It's like, they're all like, we don't know how to dance. Show me how to dance. He's just like, dance for me. Do your little dance. Do your little shitty dance for me. And they're just like,
Yeah, Barry gives their idea for their video to Jeremy.
Yeah.
And he's like, that sounds a bit all over the place. It sounds like loads of different ideas going on.
Yeah.
Competing against each other. And he's also like, focus on less dancing and more acting. Because if you're just dancing, you could just get some backing dancers to do that. You need to act and be yourselves.
Their video idea, from what we hear, is like the three of them are going out, and I think Barry and Nena both are like finding someone on the dance floor, and Mia's going through a breakup and has like the moment on her own, kind of like feeling herself kind of thing. And I think from that inception to the final result is quite different, because I think in this creative process, Jeremy's like, you have to cut some of that out, because what we haven't spoken about, and it's not overly said in the episode, is that it's a cut down version of the song. It's not the full 3 minutes, is it? It's like a 1.5 minute, 90-second kind of situation. And that's, for a full video, you could have those little plots going on for what the time they've got. They've got like a couple of verses and a chorus or something like that, haven't they?
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Unless you know, it's just not all shown. It's hard to know how
really
much
hard.
is
I'm pretty
film.
sure. Yeah, it's because we're cut back to the reactions as well. Yeah, it is hard, but it seems like a cut down version of the song.
So we then get in the studio with Dylan, who's getting a bit stressed out.
Yeah.
And then we get a bit of background
we do,
of Dylan, who talks about how he's trans.
Yes.
It
leads him from mentioning like struggling with the falsetto part of it and like the higher notes. Yeah.
I had no idea he was trans.
No, me neither. And it was something that obviously they were holding back the backstory for this.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that was like a plan.
He talks about that video that he made that I thought was really cool that had him singing the same song pre and post transition. And he was talking about like hearing your own voice in different ways. Absolutely. And I was like, that's quite a cool
thing. It was really
thing.
Interesting, yeah. And I think in a way, I'm quite happy that they didn't kind of lean into it too early because it gave us room to get to know Dylan as the person that's
exactly
on the screen.
If you go in episode 1 and be like, and this trans contestant Dylan, then the whole time he's the trans contestant.
Exactly.
And he doesn't need to be that. He's Dylan and he's great. Without knowing any of that stuff.
Yeah. And we've always it's just
I had no idea.
I think it works nicely the way they've done it. It did make me think because a lot of the times when we get a big backstory, that person is kind of short-lived for the show. So as soon as I started, that was the only thing I was thinking, oh no, we're getting the backstory. It's the backstory of death here.
And we also, ML talks about how proud she is of Dylan, how he's a beautiful human being. Absolutely, I was like, those two seem close. Which is also a death nail if you're close to ML a lot of the time.
We've seen that at least once.
So watch out. We get a few practicing scenes. And then this is the bit where Amel and Dylan are like getting their makeup done.
Yeah.
And the other group walks past and Dylan calls them like penguin dancers.
No, Barry.
What did I say?
Dylan.
Barry
says to Dylan and
Amel, like penguin dancers.
And they're like proper like, well, especially Amel is like, what?
And like he says he likes rocking the boat, and like 100% Barry plays mind games in this more than anybody else. Like I noticed it last week when they're doing the remix of the songs, and Mia was a bit unsure.
This is the bit I
and
say,
he came out and was like, well, you need to change it loads or they're gonna hate it, and that affected Mia's performance because then she suddenly thought
he's
that what she
literally
done.
like, oh, are you upset that you're not good enough for this performance?
It's like, Barry, you bitch.
Proper bitch Barry for the first episode.
And like Amel and Nena just kind of at each other's Dylan and Mia just seem nice and they don't. Whereas Barry's just stirring the pot.
Absolutely. But it's like you say with Amel in this episode and the last episode, very aware of the fact it's competition, but seems to be vocalizing that more to us as the audience. Whereas Barry seems to be more actively kind of
getting in their heads.
Yeah. It's very funny though. There's also quite a cute bit as well where Mia's like kind of doing a bit of a thing to the camera. And I think it's Barry's like, can you please stop flirting with the camera, Mia? And it's like fun because it's like the confidence that we were talking about last episode.
It's funny because I think Barry, even though Amel's kind of like it's competition, you want to turn the other team against each other. Barry says these like mind game, bitchy, stirring the pot stuff, but always to his opposition. Like whenever, and it's the same with the collaboration. He's never going to say anything against someone on his team because they need to work together. And it's like Barry knows what he's doing with this.
And it's also like it's the whole collaboration team player situation as well. Isn't it? Like you have to kind of work with people. There's a bit from Becky where she mentions Mia after that little cute moment and she says she was Mia's age when she did her first music video and she's kind of making those comparisons that we've seen a couple of times.
And now she's Dylan's age.
Is that right? Yeah.
I think it's roughly. I don't know how old Becky Hill is, but
I don't know. I can't remember how old anyone is. Really.
Mia's like 20 or 21 and Dylan's like 28, 29, I think.
Who? Mia. Mia's 18, isn't she?
Oh, is she?
Yeah, I think she was the youngest by quite a bit. Yeah. I think a few of them are early 20s.
Dylan's like 28, I think.
Yes,
because he's the oldest.
So
then we get Amel and Dylan doing their video. And Dylan's really enjoying himself. Like, he's fucking love it.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, Amel gets a bit unsure of herself, where she's given the appearance of being quite confident throughout this. I think doing the video, she says she's scared of, like, being exposed.
Yeah, it's the real difference of being on camera, like, like performing or kind of standing and talking to people as with the show, and having to kind of both move around and be like the focal point of a shot kind of thing.
Yeah,
it must be quite different.
And she sees like Dylan like doing his stuff, and then gets worried that she's gonna be like outshined by Dylan, and she's like, oh shit.
And this is the bit where the director's like, as you should, and it's like, that's not a helpful comment.
Like, sometimes he's like really helpful, and then it's like he's just kind of bigging up Dylan here, but it's not very helpful.
Because they're all like looking at Dylan on the monitor and they're like, wow, Dylan's looking amazing. Like doing really confident dancing, danced around on the thing. And it's just like, you should be worried. Yeah, it's very similar to the Barry comment last week. Yeah.
And then Amel starts crying and Dylan comes and comforts her, and Jeremy's comforting her as well.
I did think it was funny how the camera's just like in her face while she's crying. And I'm like, I know it's reality TV, but I'd probably be like, fuck off, mate. And she probably did. And they were like, no, you've signed up for this and you have to just cry on camera here.
Yeah.
But but it is a nice moment, and Dylan's being really comforting. And, and that little team is just so good in this episode. Yeah. They're really, really nice to each other.
And Jeremy then reports back to Jason, telling him that, Jason and Frank, that Dylan has properly turned up. Like, Dylan is great.
Yeah.
But he has doubts, or Amel has doubts about herself, and that may affect her performance.
Yes.
And as we've seen throughout the show, that like if your confidence gets knocked, that's like a bullet to the head in the show.
Yeah.
Then the other team are doing their video.
Yeah.
Barry says
he says something about like you've got nowhere to hide when you're just the one on camera.
Yeah, he's like he's not quite used to the cameras and stuff. And it's like you've got to be on show. And Jeremy then wonders if Barry is too confident. I think he's talking to Jason. Like, there's confidence. Confidence is good.
Yeah.
But there's being too confident.
I think the comment is something like, it's when you don't listen and you're kind of so confident in knowing everything that you're not. Like, it's confidence, and then there's overconfidence where you're not taking feedback.
Where it just kind of maybe becomes like arrogance.
Yeah, and I think that's what he's a little bit worried about. And it's something that we've kind of heard echoed before, but most of the time, like the producer that worked with Barry last week was mentioned something similar, but then was like, but Barry's great and I love Barry. Whereas this is more of a kind of general criticism rather than anything else. Yeah.
Then we get to the other team, and Amel's whole thing that kind of plays on her mind in this episode is that like her body image and stuff. She's not very
and
confident.
Having to do like a dance. It's a solo part,
dance,
and it will have some sort of dance.
So she decides to do her solo in like a ball pit where like her body's covered a bit more.
And more kind of lying back and kind of like it reminded me of Mia's TikTok in the first episode, where it's kind of like an overhead shot, and kind of like looking up to camera with a bit of hand movement kind of thing, which is something you see in music videos a lot. Like it's not like a bad thing,
and it's quite like a fun idea.
And also, I think, although it's kind of seen as a bit of a negative, the way it's pitched to us here is like, oh, instead of this, she decided to do this. I think in a music video, if one person's dancing around on the bar, maybe the other person should be doing something different.
So, I've got an idea to do something even better, sort of thing. And I was like, that makes sense.
I think it works perfectly well. I think it's good.
Yeah, and Jeremy thinks that their concept for their video is better than the other teams. He just has doubts about Amel's confidence. And then we find out that Nana's also quite nervous.
Yeah, feeling the pressure to perform, they say.
And Frank wonders if like it's just the whole competition's getting to her because it is quite intense.
Yeah, because we've seen a couple of times. Does it do a bit of a flashback over things?
I think maybe,
Of like, there was particularly the collaboration episode where she got a bit stressed about her comment.
Fell out a bit as well there. And Jeremy says like, what's holding her back is that she wants to be so good. Yeah. So anything below that just hits her.
Yeah, super high standards, basically.
Yeah.
Which is, it's good in a way, but I think every time we've seen something like this with Nana, she always has a moment but gets over it and then kind of really shines. And it happens in this. Yeah. The director is super helpful in this case and really gets her through this moment.
And he says that like she really picks up confidence as they start filming, which is like,
we see a couple of takes and it's like, getting increasingly more kind of presence and kind of sass and stuff. And the final result there that we see is like, she looks fantastic. She really like owning the fucking shot. She looks great.
Yeah. Jordan then checks on Mel and Dylan, and like you can really see that fucking penguin comment from Barry earlier has got to them because they are still thinking about it. And it's like, oh, Barry pulled that off very well.
Yeah, and she talks about her insecurities, and I think this is when she kind of mentions that it makes situations like that this make her focus on the image rather than the talent side of it. And she's very confident performing and with the talent. And it's like when the kind of focus changes is when it really gets to her.
Yeah, which it's a shame because like Amel is really good and like she looks good in this as well.
Yeah,
like it's a self-image thing that like obviously she sees differently to what everyone else sees, but that's what the sort of thing that affects you.
And it's one of those things where this and probably the previous episode we've seen more Amel than we have in the rest of the competition. And you know, that's obviously intentional because, as we say, they edited it based on certain things throughout the competition. But I think both of us have really warmed her in the last couple of episodes. So, yeah.
Yeah, we then get focus on Mia, who's like solo bit is her on a bar. And she's like feeling so awkward and is hating it.
Yeah, she says like there wasn't even any music playing, and I'm like, why is there no music playing? Like, because they don't record the sound at the same time. But
you at least play the song.
The rest of the times we see it, people are miming to their own vocals. So I don't know why. Maybe it was the practice had no music. I don't know.
But then once they start filming, Mia it's like a different person.
Yeah,
like it's unbelievable.
She's got this great like oversized motorcycle leathers. She's like taking the jacket off. She's up on the bar. She's
and she just like switched it up, and it's just like
it's so good. Honestly, I was like, go for it.
And when Jeremy's talking to Jason and Frank, he says that like Mia is the biggest star here, and that kind of surprised because I think last week we said that Mia might struggle with this challenge because it's all about confidence and showing yourself off away from the singing.
Yeah.
I think Jason and Frank thought the same. And then Jeremy's just like, no, she's the best one.
Yeah,
wow.
I think Jeremy's like, it's going to be really hard to decide at this point.
Yeah.
And it's like, I completely agree. At this point, it's like, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We get a little bit of the end kind of shots of Mia, Barry, and Nenna. And they've got like new outfits on. They're looking more like glammed up. Looking really good, like you're just at this point. It's both everything we've seen looks really good at this point.
And we get some like final comments. Dylan says he wants to make sure that he and Amel get through. Barry says if he wins this challenge, it'd be like a high for the series for him because he loves this. He really likes this challenge.
Cool.
Amel says it would be really, really annoying to her if she goes out on this challenge because she feels like this challenge doesn't represent her as much as some of the other challenges.
Is this when Nenna chimes in?
And Nenna's like, there's no excuses. I didn't even know the song, so like you can't be making excuses. And I was like, fucking hell, Nenna, like that's just brutal.
Yeah, they're both right, but also it's that case of you don't necessarily have to say that then.
Yeah. I think it's if somebody else had said that, Nenna might not have said anything, but because they built up their little drama, which is fun for us.
And then Ollie Alexander's going to come and watch the music videos with them. So they're all going to kind of premiere them together. As well as the other 3 judges. So it's 4 judges this time, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's Amel and Dylan first, as you said, doing the song King.
Yes.
And they're both having fun with it. I really enjoyed this.
I think they both sound really good.
Yeah. It was fun. They both looked really good doing it. Like they both really had fun with it.
I feel like there's a nice mixture of the kind of serious dance stuff with a group and there's the sillier dance. It's almost like, to me, and I think this is what they were trying to get across, it's like a mixture of like messing around with your mate and then like the fantasy of if you were with a load of dancers. And I think although compared to the other one, it isn't quite as kind of sharp and in a way it doesn't look as professional, but I don't feel like that's anything they did. I feel like the creative team, obviously this Jeremy guy was involved in both, but I feel like the final product is quite different.
There's a lot more production put into the other video. And Becky comes out, and this annoyed me because she was like, she wanted the video to be like more serious and show us serious. And I was like, I thought you wanted them to like be themselves.
Yeah, and also
like,
it's
what
like,
the fuck?
Why did you want that? Like, based on what you,
like,
where have you been, Becky?
Yeah, fucking off on tour, Becky.
Yeah, she says more pop star. I think because they mentioned earlier that they wanted them to have the X factor and be the pop idol.
Yeah,
that
we already know they've got the voice.
Yeah,
but yeah, and like this is a good opportunity.
But they should have highlighted that more if that was what they wanted.
Whereas the kind of like we want to see you and you'd be in a music video, and like this is what I would expect to see from Dylan and Mel in a music video. If they did the other group's video, I would have been like, that's not really them, is it?
Yeah, and there's a moment where Jason, bless him, he's trying to be like really nice and sincere, and he is being nice and sincere, but he kind of awkwardly is like, Amel, you shouldn't worry about your image, and it's like, it feels like he's trying to be nice, but he's almost just saying something like there and then.
Yeah,
and I feel like it came across a bit awkward because it's like, he was like, you look beautiful, and it's like, obviously she does look beautiful, but bringing that up specifically, I feel like, I don't know. But then at the same time, there's a comment about Dylan and looking really good, dancing around with the open shirt.
Yeah.
And is it then or is it later that we get a moment where Dylan talks about that and how much it meant to him?
I think it's a bit later on.
A little bit later on, yeah.
But yeah, Frank also says like dancing isn't a strength for them, and it's like, yeah, we knew that.
Yeah,
like
it's playing to strengths.
Yeah, and that's what they did. They played to their strengths. Apparently, they didn't want their strengths to be the thing. And I think I said back in like week 1, I hope they don't try and force Dylan and Amel into being people they're not. And that looks like that's what's happening.
Yeah. And we get a comment from Nana saying it was dead.
They looked awkward as fuck. I was like, fuck, Nana's going all in this week.
Shade from Nana this time. Honestly. Yeah.
Then we get the other group who did Shine. And I have to say, from the out, they look like fucking pop stars.
This is what I'm saying. It felt like it was made by different creative teams. It felt like cinematography wise, it was just like, it was slicker. It had like this kind of pop star sheen
even
to
like
it.
The outfits and the makeup and all of them.
Even just the part where they're walking in and it's got like a bit of slow-mo and it's just, it feels more kind of cinematic. It feels more like a music video that, you know, that might be someone like a Doja Cat or someone that's
100%. And you see Amel and Dylan watching it and they just look really awkward.
They look really worried.
They can see the difference. Yeah. And like, I think it's not, the video's okay. Yeah. Like it's a standard pop video, really.
Exactly. It's
they each had their moments. The bit of Mia on the bar looked great.
Fantastic, yeah.
I think Nena and Barry just kind of look a bit generic.
They both had their nice moments.
They looked good.
Camera. Yeah.
Ollie Alexander fucking loved it.
Yeah, so we didn't mention he loved the first one, but he does seem to react more to the second one.
Yeah,
definitely.
And it is good. It just seems more generic to me.
Yeah, anyway. I feel like concept-wise and based on what the individual contestants did, I think they're pretty even across the board.
Yeah.
I think there were certain bits that surprised us, like Mia, but I feel like quality of the music video, the stuff that was out of their hands, the second one just did shine a little bit more.
Frank says they looked great. He said Nena looked elegant, and she did. As you said last week, Nena always looks great. Like she's got such a great selection of dresses. She always just looks great. Barry shined and Mia was on fire.
And I really love like their outfits, their kind of pop star outfits. They all just look really good at the end. And there's a nice bit where they're all.
It's not like they're like matching or anything.
No.
They've all got
individual.
You could see them go into a club together wearing what they're wearing, and they all look great.
Yeah.
Jason says that the camera loves Mia, and it's like, And Becky also thinks it was amazing, and I was like, well, we know which video they preferred. And then you get a little talking ahead of Amel saying it was Mia's video with backing dancers.
I can see what she means.
I can see what she means. Like Barry and Nena were good, but the bit we saw, Mia seems to have the big set piece on the bar. And Nena and Barry just kind of in the club, like dancing and singing to the camera.
Because of the kind of final group shot, it's probably because Mia is quite a bit shorter.
Yeah.
So you tend to put the shorter person in the middle. Maybe they tried different versions and that was the one that made the edit. But
when they first come into the club, it goes Nenna on the left, then Barry, then Mia, because she turns off and goes to the bar.
Right.
And when they come in, I thought it looked a bit disjointed having somebody, because Mia's like a good foot shorter than both Nenna and Barry. Yeah. So it looked a bit just disjointed. So then at the end, her in the middle, it's like, that looks better.
Works,
but then, as you said, it also makes Mia the front and center.
Sometimes, it just happens, doesn't it, with videos? It's like, but I do understand Amel's point there, and I do think, at least based on the edit that we see, she definitely is the one that is given more kind of screen time there.
Yeah. Frank says that they'll be taking all challenges into consideration when picking the bottom two.
He says that.
Yeah. Which is good. I kind of assumed they'd done well before they
have mentioned
based
that
on
once
the challenge.
Before. They've said
I thought it was the challenge put you in the bottom two, but then the overall thing was the decider between that bottom two.
Right. So after your cover Sing for Your Soul, then it's everything.
Yeah. But I think because it's now a final five and they've got to like literally split hers between five really talented people, it's then we'll do the whole thing.
Which makes sense because
Yeah. And this is where so we get comments from each of them.
Oh yeah, this is the bit I was talking about.
Discussing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Dylan saying that like he loved that Jason said that he liked him with his shirt off.
Yeah.
And he gets really emotional because obviously being a trans person, that's something that would have also always played on his mind.
And he says like, exactly that it's something that for Jason would have been much easier to do and he's been doing throughout music videos throughout his career, but it's not something that had been so easy for him to do, and gets very emotional, understandably. And it's like damn, like
fair play to him, and he pulled it off. He looked great,
fantastic. Like we said, like the shots on the bar, it's just really good stuff, like really fun.
Yeah,
and I guess that's part of the reason why we hear this stuff about the backstory and about him transitioning. Is because it's more relevant in this episode than any other, but either way, it's
I think it adds an extra element to the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to hear someone's backstory, but like we said earlier,
it wasn't important.
It's not important to
the
so
episodes, we each get comments from the judges on some of them. Jason says Dylan has some great moments doing his own stuff. Frank says Barry's 100% safe from this, and Becky says Mia is 100% safe, and it was like, okay.
Yeah.
Frank says that Amel struggled, and I think she struggled in the build-up. The video, we didn't really see enough of it to know. I thought she was fine in the video.
From what we see, I think it all was absolutely fine.
And Becky says that Nenna's not confident enough, which is something like Amel we see in the build-up, but it seems to be she usually pulls it together by the final thing.
And I feel like, although it's worthy kind of criticism / feedback from what was
Frank,
he called? No,
Becky.
What was the other guy called?
Jason?
No.
Jeremy,
yeah. You're going through everyone. Ollie?
Jordan?
From Jeremy. I almost forgot his name again. There. God, we haven't been recording that long. From Jeremy, it's part of the process and it's worth feeding back. But like, I'm sure lots of people, they get the pre-show jitters. It's if you can fucking do it. And the end result for Nenna
always does it.
Great, and she's So I feel like it's just like, you don't even fucking need to mention that.
Yeah. So then they're gonna say like, who's in the thing to save your ass? And they say Amel is in the bottom, like straight off the bat.
Yeah.
She needs to show more, and that kind of surprised me a bit because I was like, I know she had a bit of a wobble in this episode, but she wasn't bad, and she's been consistently good throughout.
It's exactly what we were just saying, because they say you did so well considering your insecurities, and it feels a little bit like talking down a little bit.
Yeah,
and I guess at this point they are picking for the threads that they can find, the things that might be their downfall as an artist. Or whatever. But it's just they say something like, you take away the guitar and we lose the artist, and it's like, but that's
again, that was fucking bullshit. She's a country singer. Take away the guitar from like Johnny Cash and he's not the same.
Yeah, but she's still like, she sounded great. She looks great on camera.
She's done plenty of stuff without her guitar as well.
Yeah,
and it's been good.
I really feel like it's getting to the nitpicky kind of bit, isn't it? And it was a bit frustrating to hear that.
Yeah, I thought it's weird when he says you can't be a superstar without your guitar, and I was like, but lots of people are like that.
Yeah, at least. Well, the whole point is that they're like unsigned, semi-untrained.
Yeah.
artists. It's like,
and she's a country singer. When country singers always have a guitar, like that's the entire point, isn't it?
well, or a tambourine.
Or a
banjo.
A banjo.
I would love to see her get the banjo out.
And then also, I thought they were going to do one from each group, but nope, they also put Dylan in the bottom. And I was like, well, because they were really complimentary about Dylan, and Dylan's, again, been consistently great.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the only thing with Dylan from the judges' perspective is they put Dylan on such a high pedestal in the first episode that everything that he did afterwards didn't match up to this image they had.
Yeah,
and that's probably what they're thinking in terms of like, we need you to match up what we've seen. But from our perspective, it's like, what the fuck? It's just because he's in the same group as Amel.
Yeah, like,
that's the way it seems like.
Frank says he needs to see the spark again. Jason says he needs to step up. And it's like, Frank has just made the point that the bottom two have decided on all categories.
Yeah.
And yet they've just picked the two people in the video they didn't like as much.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, really?
And Amel has something to say about it.
Straight
which
away.
Is completely fair.
And she's like, she does it in quite a nice way at first, where she's like, can I just establish like the reasoning? Because you said it's all things. I've consistently been getting good feedback.
Yeah.
And now suddenly I'm in the bottom two. She then also says, other people have coasted. And then it's like, what?
And Nena gets rubbed up the wrong way. And she says that she was looking at her when she said it. I didn't notice that particularly, but I think it was more shade at the other team in general.
Yeah.
I think it could as equally as been aimed at Barry.
Yeah,
because Barry's neither been bottom or top in a lot of things.
Like Barry and Nena are the two that have never been top or bottom of these remaining five.
Yeah.
So although I wouldn't say coasting is a fair comment.
No, I don't think so either.
It could be target, but Nena, because they've got their rivalry, takes offense. And then Jason comes out and says that Amel's had more lows than highs. And I was like, I don't think that was particularly fair.
I also think it's funny because Jason seems like he's a little bit scared of Amel. He's kind of like, well, the reasons are the reasons, and that's all we've got to say. Like, he doesn't say anything new.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
You never actually learn why they didn't answer Amel's question. Maybe it happened off camera.
It might have done. They're like, well, just do a little cut and we'll explain it afterwards.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't want someone with a guitar. Sorry. Jason Derulo hates guitars.
Frank he hated Charlie. He hated Dylan for a bit. It turns out his true hatred is guitars. Amel and Dylan are quite upset that they're against each other because one of them's going to be going out.
Yeah, I was genuinely really surprised to see both of those.
Same.
I didn't know. I didn't know who it was going to be, but I didn't think it was going to be both of them.
No. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them were because the video wasn't as liked, but then also I don't think any of the other three deserve to be in the bottom two either.
I was surprised, but I wasn't like, oh, it should have been these people.
Because they're all good and have been consistently good. So it's a scene to save your ass.
Yeah.
Amel is singing Youngblood by 5 Seconds of Summer.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm not really a fan of 5 Seconds of Summer.
I know 5 Seconds of Summer by name. I recognized the song when she started performing it, but I wouldn't have.
I quite dislike 5 Seconds of Summer. Yeah, they're really fucking annoying.
You know, Heinz toured with them in Europe.
Did they?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
They're one of those bands that were like always on like Kerrang magazine and stuff like that, and it's like they're like pretending to be like this like big like punk band. It's like you're a pop group. You're like you're more McFly than like Green Day.
I always saw them as very kind of post One Direction kind of boy band, but with instruments kind of thing.
Yeah, and maybe that is just rubbed me the wrong way. I might be
completely wrong there, yeah.
But so Amel's thinking she's good. I don't think she's mind-blowingly good.
Yeah, I thought she sounded really good. I thought it was a nice version. She made it her own, considering I kind of recognized the original. I didn't know exactly how it went, but lyrics and stuff, I kind of recognized it, and I was like, this feels like her doing her own version of this song.
Yeah,
I did really appreciate.
We get a little talking head of Barry saying it's surprised by that it's those two.
Yeah,
and Nena just kind of reiterates that she really hates the Mel.
Yeah,
basically.
she's like, "Well, I'm rooting for Dylan."
Yeah,
so blunt.
And then Mel finishes, and I was like, I was a little disappointed because I know what she can do.
Yeah,
and I think it sounded a bit too like buskery, if you know what I mean. Like, I can imagine a really her being like a really good like busker outside like Churchill Square or something, and sounding really good, but like.
You think for that point of the competition?
Yeah, I think she can do better than this.
I think we've seen this before, where not with her particularly, but when people are in that situation, like even with Okeem last week, it was a very good performance, but it wasn't the best that we've seen.
Yeah,
of him, and it's like I didn't really necessarily think that at the time, but I can see what you.
Another skill as well of knowing how to best show yourself.
Possible.
And like
song
like Mia
did
last week.
Yeah, and we get I also quite like when I didn't realize, does Frank always go, "It's showtime" before the thing?
No.
He did it both times this time. I was like,
and at the end he's just like, thanks, which he does do every time.
Frank's thanks, yeah. Dylan does All I Need to Hear by 1975.
Yeah, and I was like, now you mention it, like the 1975 Dylan theme.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought
hand in hand.
I'm not a massive fan. I used to quite like their first album, but I think it was a little bit poppy for me at the time. I think I liked kind of.
I don't really like the 1975.
We were into cooler music at the time, weren't we?
Yeah, I was talking about the 1975 recently. There's a song when they first got big, like one of their big songs. I can't remember what it's called. But like just some of the way he pronounces words is just so silly.
It would have been Chocolate was their first.
Yeah, I think it was Chocolate. There's a line in that where there's a couple of lines that's just like, what are you doing? Yeah. And he seems like a bit of a knob to me.
Oh, absolutely.
He seems like he really, really wants to be Alex Turner.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm not a massive fan of him particularly, but I might be wrong again.
Yeah, Dylan's song I thought was good. I thought
it was really good.
Unlike he doesn't have like the voice of Mia, so you can't do that. But
the emotion was.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The emotion. It's probably one of the most emotional performances we've seen.
I thought it was 100% the best Dylan performance we've seen.
Yeah, I agree.
You felt it. It felt like, so like genuine.
And it's not that like he doesn't have the voice of Mia. It's not like he sounds bad. He's still got a really good voice. And the added like
better than me.
And the emotion, it was just like, fuck yeah, this guy here can be a star, sort of thing.
100%.
Like, yeah,
and
definitely.
I think maybe, do you think that's why you didn't really? I think it kind of almost immediately overshadowed Amel's performance, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think at the time I didn't really kind of realize that as much, but kind of what you've said. It kind of highlights that a little bit more, and I think thinking of like choosing the right song and for that moment, to literally save your life or whatever it is, save your soul.
And Dylan did that. Yeah. And as soon as he finishes, Becky's like, wow.
Yeah, there's like a little wow.
And Frank's like, your vocals were a bit underwhelming. It's like,
but Frank does say like it really spoke to me. Kind of thing.
Like at this point we know their vocals, all of their vocals, and we know Dylan needs to do something else to compete with the likes of Mia, Neno, and Barry.
Yeah,
and he does that in this. So like he's still 100% with this. And Frank says like the emotion, as we just said, the emotion was amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Yeah. They do a little quick off the
Frank says like Dylan's song like spoke to him. His performance was spot on from like this is what he wanted from that episode 1 highlight.
Yeah, and then I feel like Jason then says basically the same thing about Amel. And so at this point it's like you're both saying the same thing.
Like, yeah, he was like, Amel's performance was good. And I was like, yeah, it was good.
It was,
Have you got anything else to say, Jason? No?
Considering sometimes he's had some very constructive, specific feedback.
Yeah, and sometimes he said, that's the worst song I've ever heard.
Which, again, is very specific, constructive feedback.
And then they get back to them and they get them there ready and they drop Amel. And I was it's a shame because, like she said, it's a shame that she fell into this position in an episode that's not her strong suit.
Yeah.
Like, hard that she had to go out in this when she's been good throughout.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. But then also you can look at it not quite the way Nana said it, but at some point they're going to find a weakness is kind of the vibe, isn't it? And it's like
exactly. And
each week it's going to get tougher and it's going to get to a point where there's a challenge you don't thrive in, and the whole point of that is then that's where you get eliminated.
And I don't think you can say about Mia, Barry, Dylan or Nena that any of them don't deserve to be in the top 4.
No,
So like, no, it's one of those things. It's hard when you get to this point.
Yeah, and also like based on what we saw, if you disregard the performances at the end, based on what we saw from the video, I don't think that it would have been such an obvious decision there.
No,
but obviously they've seen more and they've heard more and they've got more information or whatever it is. But
it's one of those. She thanks them, hugs Dylan.
Yeah, it's a friend for life with Dylan.
Yeah, and she says like, "This is just the beginning."
Yeah.
And Jason's just like, "Yeah, we want to see more."
Yeah, I think Becky's like, "You're gonna get there. You've just got a little bit more of a journey, kind of thing."
Yeah, and we're down to our final four. Jordan North then appears, and then before the end of the episode, he's like, "I've got a surprise for you," and Barry's like, "Oh." Fuck, like, come on, give us a break.
Oh, God.
And he's like, for the next challenge, you come into my home. And I was like, they're going to Jordan North's house?
Yeah.
No, they're going to Radio 1. And they're doing a live lounge performance. I was like, that's pretty cool.
So what I thought was interesting about this is, was this a live lounge performance that has been broadcast?
See, Christina said that, because then you know the final four.
Yes, that's true. But also, it means that it's out there.
Yeah.
And because we see a little shot of it, it's made to look like Nena is kind of chatting away on air.
Yeah.
Because I imagine they have a poster.
And she says something.
And she says something, and everyone's like, fucking hell, like, what's going on there? So I don't know if she misspeaks or says something. Yeah. But that may be edited differently. But if that's the case, that means that either they pretended to air something just to trick
or maybe
them.
they just recorded it and it's going to be aired after the show or something.
Yeah, and maybe it was aired for the judges separately. Yeah. That would make more sense.
It'd be weird. Yeah, because when Christina pointed out, like, if they're all doing a live lounge and it's live on the radio as live lounges often are, then you know who the final four are weeks ago.
I reckon it's a closed capsule situation.
Yeah, so in terms of our sweepstake, we're even again because I've lost a Mal. So you're left with Mia and Nena. Mm-hmm. I'm left with Dylan and Barry.
Yeah.
It's impossible to tell at this point. Any one of them could win this.
I would 100% agree. Yeah.
Like,
I think based on this episode, the people that shone or shine as the as the songs shined were, for me, it's one from each group really. It's Mia and Dylan, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's probably
they both got their moments in the videos is kind of the main thing.
At this point, I don't think we have any outsiders.
I don't think we do. I think it, and like you say, it could equally be anyone because we're constantly fucking surprised by this show. So I just genuinely don't know. Like, based off this episode.
Yeah, I think Mia, I'm going with at the moment. I said Mia last week, and she has just taken on another step this week.
And it was really nice to see that kind of criticism basically taken on. It just works.
I think Dylan is really good, but I think at the end of the day might just be pipped to it by the fact that his vocals aren't quite on the same level as the others.
Yeah, and maybe not. I don't know. It depends what, because we talk about like genre and maybe they didn't
and Frank hates guitar.
Yeah. If that is a factor, which it shouldn't be, but if it comes to the fact everyone's at a deadlock and they don't want like an indie artist, then that will be, even if they don't admit it, that'll be the way it goes.
I think if I had to pick one person that I don't think is going to win, I'd probably say Dylan for that reason.
Really, yeah. I can see that. Yeah, I almost don't want to. I don't want to put that out there, but yeah, I can. But yeah, I think that totally.
Mia, if I had to pick, but Nena and Barry have always stepped up and been brilliant when we've seen them before. Whenever they've kind of had doubts, it's always been like in the build-up or off-camera stuff. When it's actually the performances, the stuff that the judges have seen, they've both been brilliant throughout.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think it's something we constantly say in these episodes, and we've mentioned it today. I feel like both of those two, Nena and Barry, we still need to see this extra bit of them. Not in terms of to prove themselves, but we just need that. Like, they need some more coverage in the show. Like, they have kind of been relegated to, I mean, there's been some lovely drama that's really fun to watch, but in terms of performances, it seems to focus more on others. Yeah. And I feel like as it's now got down to 4, we should be getting nice even quarters and see everybody perform evenly.
Yeah, I hope so.
I'd really like to see that, because then we can make a more kind of critical,
educated decision.
Educated, exactly. Yeah. Objective.
But yeah, what did you think of this episode overall?
I really liked it. Actually,
it's great, isn't it?
I think it was. I think it probably went back to the heights of the first episode for me. I reckon.
Yeah, I think
wasn't quite as like. There was a lot of unexpectedness in that first episode, but there was a lot of genuine emotion, both from the stuff we heard about Dylan and the stuff we hear from Amel.
Yeah,
and
plus the bitchiness is always great from
that was
Barry,
going between
Nena,
them.
and Amel,
and again seeing Mia kind of opening up and shine from that last. I think everyone had like really good entertaining moments.
I think the only thing that I think this episode could have been better is that we never really hear them sing much, and we get a bit from the video, but you're more focused on the video than the singing. And I was like, I know it's not the whole point of the show. It's not just about the singing.
And also, we both kind of disagreed with a lot of the decisions that the judges made in this, but it's kind of that's not really something that. I mean, we can talk about it forever, but it's not really a slight against the episode.
Yeah, and
I haven't agreed with a lot of the decisions, to be honest. So
you're always going to disagree with some of the judges, especially when you get to this part of the show.
Yeah,
I mean, the fact of the matter is, Frank, Becky, and Jason are three very highly well-regarded people in the music industry. And we're two guys in a basement.
In a bin. What was it? Two ugly boys in a basement.
Two ugly boys in a basement.
Yeah. I feel like this is also the first episode that we've spoken about any music that we like at all.
Oh, we've spoken about King Gizzard 1,000 times.
Yeah, but not on the Project Icon.
Oh, yeah. a bit.
It's like, so... This is Sam. This is the music he likes. This is Lewis. This is the music he likes.
Yeah.
We know Lewis likes Kerrang and Scum.
Scuzz.
And we know I've watched years and years at Glastonbury.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And I mentioned Doja Cat twice.
Yeah, Doja Cat's all right.
Yeah. Anyway, that's enough. That's enough out of that. We don't need to. So, what would you go in terms of ratings for the episode?
Fuck it, I'll give it another 7.
Yeah, I think we're going 8 for this episode.
Oh,
so I think I was 8.778.
I think you gave the first one a 7.
Yeah, I keep saying it was 8, but I reckon I
think you've gone 7.778 and I've gone 8.777.
I don't really care. 8.
No, nor do I. Cool. So, unless you've got anything else to say.
Well, one thing I have got to say is that if this is when you leave us, if you don't want to hear about us talking about Star Wars TV shows, thank you very much for listening. Tune in next week. All the contact details are in the episode description.
Yeah. Keep on coming. It's been a pleasure to have you here. For those of you that want to carry on and hear about all the extra shit that we've been watching, get to know us a bit better. It's now time for Personal Projects.
It's nothing personal.
Projects.
So, Sam, what have you been watching?
Well,
all playing.
Yeah, there we go. Well, I watched the film starring Bob.
Great
the
one.
The 2021 Bob Odenkirk starring
I knew you were
film.
going to say Bob Odenkirk. Is it that film starring Bob Odenkirk?
Yeah, it's the film. It's called Nobody.
Yeah, that one.
And it is basically old man John Wick, but obviously Keanu's already kind of an old man at this point.
Yeah.
It's like even older man John Wick. It's just gone on Netflix in the UK, so it is very easy to find if anyone has Netflix. It's pretty short. It's pretty sweet. It's pretty fun.
Nice.
It's good. It's a bit different from John Wick in that he's retired. He's got this kind of mysterious background, and he ends up doing a lot of kind of ultra violent kind of stuff like John Wick. But rather than him being like out of it and then kind of being drawn back in, he's kind of almost craving this being back in it kind of thing. And he's got this very boring life, and he almost goes out and causes the problems that kind of escalate it. And he's a bit more of a kind of flawed character, whereas Keanu, as Johnny Wickles, is kind of just like he's
reluctant.
He's reluctant, but we're supposed to be like, yeah, he's the best guy. Whereas in this, you're kind of like, I don't know if this guy's that good. And it's fun. It's not quite as kind of gun-fu-y as John Wick. He does quite a lot of action, and he's in very good shape. He looks good, like he can move and stuff like that. It would help if he could move a little bit. But it's really good. And there's some very creative kind of fights and kills and deaths in it. And I had a really good time with it.
Nice.
It's also got Christopher Lloyd in it, who we spoke about in Mandalorian recently. He plays his dad. He gets some actiony bits towards the end as well, considering he's like early 80s, I think.
Yeah.
He has some good stuff. Mainly it's like old man with the shotgun stuff, but it's quite fun.
Yeah, fair enough.
It is very John Wick in that it involves Bob Odenkirk's character hurting very severely a lower ranking but connected member of the Russian mafia, and then instead of the dad, it's the older brother going out for revenge. But it's quite fun and creative. Nice. And the bad guy is like way more unhinged and kind of super villainy than something like John Wick, even though they're quite super villain in that, but more of a kind of maybe something from like Kick-Ass or something where they're kind of more psychopathic and like cool. It's good fun. And the soundtrack is very kind of like old man music, like there's lots of like Frank Sinatra and stuff like that played over. Sounds like slow-mo violent stuff. It's a good fun time. I enjoyed it.
Cool. I might check that. It's one of those things when I first saw it, like the first trailer and stuff, I was like, oh, that looks fun. Maybe I'll get around to that at some point. Never did. Yeah, exactly. But maybe I should now.
It's a fun time. Yeah, I would recommend it. Yeah. What
Fair enough. Do you ever scroll through TikTok and it's like a scene from a film,
right? Yeah.
And then you end up watching random scenes from a film.
I've never done that, but I've heard lots of people say recently that.
And there was one film that kept coming up, and I was like, "This looks good." I was like, "I'm going to find it and watch it."
Yeah.
So I watched Moneyball.
Okay.
From like 2011.
Is it Brad
Pitt and Jonah Hill are the main two. Chris Pratt's also in it.
Cool.
Like this was back before Guardians, so
really
but he had to like get in shape for it because he plays a baseball player.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But it's like I don't give a shit about baseball, but it's quite an interesting thing. It's based on the Oakland Athletics 2002 season, where basically like they got the budget that's like 1/5 of like the Red Sox and the Yankees. They lose some of their best players, and they're like, how do we compete? And like all these scouts are suggesting these players, but then they go down like a stats driven perspective. Jonah Hill's character's like, this guy, like he's a superstar, but he's not worth the money that like is being paid for him. And they put together this team of like a bit ragtag of people who like
underdogs.
Yeah, and it's like their like picture is a guy who like bowls really weirdly, so like he's never really been picked up because people are like he can't do it properly, and it's all about
not like technically good, but performance good.
And it's like it's not about like who can hit the most home runs. It's all about like getting to first base. Like you want people who've got a high percentage of getting to first base, because then overall in a game that works out.
Right.
It's got Philip Seymour Hoffman in it as like the coach. And it's a bit like at start they don't do very well because they're still getting used to it.
Yeah.
And then they go on this winning streak. They set like the all-time baseball record for games won in a row, which is like 20.
Cool.
And it's got like this side plot of like him and his daughter, Brad Pitt and his daughter, and it was like, I don't care about baseball, but like this is a really well made film. I think it was nominated for an Oscar.
I heard very good things about it at the time, but I mean, I'm not normally a sports film person, but if it has enough behind it, like it sounds like
I like sports films. I just think usually they're not very good. It's rare that it's good, and you know it helps that it's based off a true story. And it was really good, and like seeing kind of, because I've heard of kind of that concept. That concept has been moved into football a lot. Brighton Hove Albion are one that used that kind of Moneyball approach to transfers, the statistic stuff. So it's become quite common in football. So it's like something I'm aware of, and kind of seeing this and being like, this is obvious.
Is that where it came from, or is that more one of the more successful, famous examples?
I think that's. So it was based on like a book some guy wrote in like the 80s that wasn't really picked up except for a couple of people, and then it was this team that kind of made it really famous, and then a bunch of other teams started doing it, and then it spread to other sports as well.
Cool.
I was like, it was pretty good.
Is it on streaming stuff?
It's on Amazon.
Cool.
Yeah, if you've got Amazon, free to watch. I also went to the cinema on Saturday to see Renfield.
Oh, you did? Yeah, of course.
With Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult, the Knicks.
How did they find it?
The Knicks, they seem to really enjoy it.
Cool.
That entire, I want to say baseball team, but I don't know what the Knicks play. It sounds like a baseball team. I think it's the New York Knicks. The Knicks. I don't know. It's American sports. Can't say I'm an expert, but yeah, it was really fun. Like it wasn't the best film ever. It was kind of mid-budget gore comedy.
Yes,
it was gorier than the trailer seems to show.
So I haven't seen the trailer, no,
but it's very funny.
I was quite keen to see it. Yeah.
Nicolas Cage proper hams it up playing Dracula because it's a sequel to the original Dracula film.
Yeah, from like 1931 or something.
Yeah. And Nicolas Cage, he's probably only in the film for like 20 minutes because it's about Renfield.
Yeah. But it's like it's great. Is it modern day?
It's set in the modern day.
And Renfield's like, I hate working for Dracula, basically.
It's basically, he's going to this like support group for people in like dependent relationships.
Right, okay,
basically to find bad people to bring to Dracula is why he starts going there, but then he starts, getting into it. Awkwafina's in it as like a policeman who he kind of have a thing with. She's fun. She usually is. And it was good fun. Some of the gore in it is just really funny. Like there's bits like people's arms being chopped off and then just like blood squirting everywhere and hitting people with the arms.
Is Dracula quite a kind of vicious, like chomping people up kind of situation? Because I've seen one of the original shots that you see, that was released. He's got very kind of gross, kind of lots of fangs kind of situation.
Yeah, and literally like ripping people's throats off and blood squirting everywhere. Nice. Yeah, it's got a guy from, I want to say, Always Sunny in Philadelphia. One of those big American shows that everyone apart from me has watched. Who's kind of like one of the villains, but he's very funny in it.
Is it Ben Schwartz?
Ben Schwartz.
Yeah. He's in Parks and Rec.
Oh, John, I had this same conversation earlier that I think I said he was in.
He also
Parks and Rec. Yeah.
He also voiced Sonic in the new Sonic films as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah. He's very funny, and like him being kind of like this idiot, like mafia villain.
Right. Okay.
Was great fun. But yeah, Nicholas Hoult is really good. Nicolas Cage is really good. Cool. Like I said, it's not going to go win any awards or anything. But if you want like a Saturday afternoon popcorn mid-budget flick, it is great for that. And it did really make me laugh at some bits. So I was like,
no, I will check it out at some point. It may be a streaming situation or a Max down the road situation for me. But yeah, I would like to check it out.
And it's cool seeing, this story told of a classic horror villain, but in like a modern day comedy sort of thing, whilst still keeping that villain the same as they always have been. So like you've still got the character of Dracula being Dracula, but it's in a comedy film. And thoroughly enjoyed it. So I recommend if anyone gets the chance to go see it. Anything else that you've been watching?
Yeah, I watched the first episode of Aunty Donna's Coffee Cafe.
Right.
Which is their new series on ABC in Australia.
I didn't know they had a new series.
So it's all on their iView, which is like their iPlayer, as you can imagine.
Right.
It's not getting international release at the moment. I've seen lots of things where they've said if you can use a VPN to access it, that will give us the view still, and we might get the.
So shame Netflix didn't pick it up.
Yeah, I think they said from a couple of social posts that it will. They're in negotiations kind of thing. But yeah, first episode I watched, it's more of a sitcom. It's more of a half an hour situation rather than they were about 15, 20 minutes before.
Yeah.
It's still that kind of sketches loosely together, but it has more of a narrative that they're starting to run this coffee cafe, and it's based on the kind of Melbourne, there's lots of cafes, cafe culture, coffee culture. If anyone doesn't know Aunty Donna, they're a sketch group from Melbourne, Australia. And they've got lots of stuff on YouTube, some incredible sketches on there.
Podcast as well.
Podcast is really good fun. And they've got a Netflix show that came out a couple of years ago, which is Aunty Donna's Big Old House of Fun.
Was it them that did like the 24 hours of like sketch ideas for like their 100th episode?
I think that's Two in the Think Tank, but they came along. They came along for some of that. But they're really funny guys. It's three guys on screen, and then they've got writers and producers and directors that they work with as part of the kind of collective. But yeah, it's really good fun. I kind of struggle. I don't have a paid VPN, so I struggled to find a free Australian specific one because it doesn't recognize. You can't even watch it without it because it's Australia only. But I found one that worked well and it let me stream the first one. Watched it, loved it. I think all episodes have dropped. It's like 6 episodes, so I probably will make my way through them.
Hopefully, it's picked up for an international release soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch it again probably as well, just on there because
I mean, I think I watched Big Old House of Fun in like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it's really, really easy to get through, and I think some of that Big Old House of Fun, like there's specific episodes that are just like back to back, like just really good stuff.
I was watching some after a night out the other week actually. A couple of people came back to mind when we were stuck on Big Old House of Fun.
It's a really easy thing to watch. It's really fun.
I've been seeing more clips of them actually on like TikTok and stuff, and I was like, it looks like they're fully doing sketches or they've got a new show. So it must have been from this.
I think it's from the new show. Also, I actually listened to, they were on The Weekly Planet, which is an Australian podcast if anyone hasn't heard of it, mostly pop culture stuff, and they were promoting this new show and they talked about the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, which we spoke about on the Silver Screen Project episode, and it was an international version that they dubbed.
I thought so.
But the original guys some of them happened to just look like them. So
really?
They did get invited to the premiere, and apparently the original people didn't get invited because they're not names, they're just people that were actors.
Just extras,
So that's quite funny because we kind of wondered afterwards if it was like, but it was just Australia that got a regional one, as well as different languages got their own versions as well. Don't know why that's a specific thing, but
should have got them to dub it in different languages, like
they should.
Like Vin Diesel does for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, true.
Or was it
one phrase,
Phil Collins who did the Tarzan soundtrack and re-recorded it in like 6 different languages?
Is that true? Fucking hell.
Like there's clips of
Phil
him
Collins
and that soundtrack's fucking brilliant.
It is gorgeous. Yeah.
But
one more thing before we get on to Mando Town, USA. I have been playing a Nintendo Switch game called Dredge.
Right.
Which you saw me playing a little bit of earlier.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah. Which
I was like, I've never heard of it.
It's come out very recently. And it's basically like a HP Lovecraft themed fishing game. So you kind of turn up at this town. It's mostly based on the boat, but occasionally there'll be little kind of more RPG chatting with people and going to a shop kind of thing. And it kind of starts off and you're doing a little mini game to fish stuff. And then as it starts getting dark, creepy things start happening. And it seems like there's a whole story that's kind of being revealed. And it's very kind of satisfying.
How much of it have you played?
Literally bought it early today and played like about an hour of it. But the demo is free on Switch. I don't know if I think it's on other consoles as well. And I played the demo. It was like half an hour and I was like, yeah, this game's like 15 quid. Like, I'm going to buy it. Like, because it's really, for Switch as well, it's really easy to pick up and play.
It's rare that game's that cheap on Switch as well.
Yeah, exactly. And it just has like a really kind of eerie atmosphere. It kind of reminds me of Subnautica, which is another one where it's kind of underwatery, kind of has that kind of Lovecraftian thing of like the deeper you get, there's like big eyes in the distance and a big creature. But that's much more like Minecraft on hardcore mode, whereas this is like, I feel like if I fuck up, like it's not going to destroy my base and I'm going to have to start again. And that's the kind of vibe I want right now. So I've also been playing Elden Ring as well, but it's fucking
hell.
I've just started that and it's great. It looks great. You have a little deer that you can run around on and jump on stuff, and it's great fun. But this other game, Dredge, is just more my kind of pace at this time.
It's a more laid back game.
Yeah, that's right. But no, I'm very early days in that, so I may talk about it another week. But what was the last bit? It was
Man of DeLorean.
Yeah.
So straight up, first up, a few weeks ago, I said that I accidentally read ahead in the cast list and it kind of gave a spoiler.
Okay.
That was Giancarlo Esposito as Moff Gideon in this season.
Right.
So I knew that like weeks ago and I was like,
it's not too bad.
It's not too bad.
Because every time I was like, I hope we get some Moff Gideon. And you're like,
I know we are. And at first, I thought we were just going to get like a little clip of him because it starts in this episode of him just doing.
Yeah. He talks to they're called like the Shadow Council or the Hidden Council or something. Actually, there's an interesting thing with that. You know, the guy who kind of argues with him a little bit?
Yes.
That is
Brendel Hux.
Which is Brian Gleeson.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's Brian Gleeson, who we spoke about in Lazarus Project, and is the brother of Brendan Gleeson, and is playing his dad.
So playing Domhnall Gleeson's
dad. So that guy will have a kid who will then lead the First Order.
That's
quite fun.
Yeah, I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
For a second, I forgot that Domhnall Gleeson is Hux.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was quite a fun name drop. We know we already knew that.
And
Hux
we saw
is dead.
Snoke's in a tub. We literally saw the fucking Snoke's in the tub in this bit. They were going through and there was fucking tanks of shit. It was 100% the Snoke's in the tub.
I think I missed that.
It was fucking Snoke's in the tub.
They talk about Thrawn as well.
Do, yes.
And Moff Gideon's like, where the fuck is he? You keep saying he's here. Where the fuck is he?
He's like, that one guy's just keep making promises.
And it's like, it's because
he's going to be in Ahsoka and I think he hadn't been cast yet.
Lars Mikkelsen hasn't been cast yet.
I like
for a second I was like, if he turns up and they were
that's why they had to do the announcement before.
Yeah, they were just like,
I wouldn't be surprised if we get like a post-credit-y tease of him at the end of the next episode.
But they could do like what they did with Thanos originally and just like not even have Lars Mikkelsen, show like a guy in like a white uniform with like a blue hand or something.
Hand, like press a button or something.
Yeah, and it's like bam, done. That could be
like
anyone.
How they mention like we want to keep up this facade of being like warlords that are just kind of doing their own thing, because we've had that mentioned quite a few times. I think even one of the recent episodes, someone's like, hey, I want to be nice to you, you're a warlord, and they're like, no, I'm not a warlord. It's like this idea that they're these remnants, but actually they're the beginning of the First Order, basically.
It's quite cool, like sowing the seeds again. And we get on
Navarro.
Yep.
All the Mandos meet each other.
Have their little bit of a spat.
We get a couple of like people looking at each other like, oh, I don't like you. Well, we think they're looking at each other. Half of them got helmets.
Can't tell. But
we get a great bit here. IG-12. At first I was like, this is so fucking dumb. Like, this is so dumb. And then Grogu gets in it and starts going around, and I was like, this is fucking great. What is it? No.
No. Which then comes back later when they're on the pirate ship and the Mandalorians are fighting, and he stops it. No. I like the bit where they're walking through the market and he just steals the food, and he's like, Din's like, come on.
Because he can suddenly do so much stuff. I don't think that will last. I think that's an end of season situation to allow him to kind of get more involved and stuff. But fucking Mecha Grogu, honestly, hilarious.
Yeah, it was going to Mandalore was cool. Like, obviously they had like their core group and they went from different people and they met the remnants of people that had stayed behind.
Yeah. One of them is Skinny Pete from Breaking Bad.
Was he?
Yeah.
I really recognised him.
The other guy, like the main one, is a character actor I've seen in other stuff, but I couldn't place him where he was in. Maybe something fantasy, I feel like, but I'm not sure.
It was like they had their kind of emotional story about the end of Mandalore and Bo-Katan being like, we didn't fight to.
And it kind of unintentionally unites everyone, because like Din is like, oh, we were told that you guys like betrayed us, and it's like kind of Bo-Katan kind of speaking her truth kind of united them bit,
and it seems like they had that fight, but like apart from that, they kind of like, we've got a common cause, and she makes the big speech about how like Mandalore is like unstoppable at our peak, like it's just division that has stopped us throughout our history. Like, let's not be dicks to each other. let's kind of do this together. And then the fucking Mythosaur turns up.
Well, was it though?
I don't know.
I don't think it was. I think it was just another dinosaur.
Maybe, but it'd be weird. I feel like it'd be weird if it wasn't.
I don't think it had the same
Although
face,
none of them really reacted. It was just a big thing.
I think it was just another big fuck off thing. It's so funny that like they're just going along this pirate ship like on wheels, and they're like, hoo, and then like this giant club just smashes it, and they all just jet back off. And it's like, why the fuck? Like, what?
I think it's so funny that like in the Star Wars universe, it seems a bit dumb to have jetpacks, but the Mandalorians always seem to have a way of needing their jetpacks.
And then we saw like a couple episodes ago, they have like enough fuel to use them for like 2 minutes. Basically. Like, what the fuck is that?
They just fucking love their jetpacks.
And then the people that are injured in that, then the armorer agrees to take them off world. And we get like a very tense scene of her like breaking out of the atmosphere, and we know that Moff Gideon's lot are in on this plan. There's a spy in the midst, I imagine. And there's this tense scene where she kind of breaks the atmosphere. and the fleet's there, and I'm like, is something going to happen? And nothing happens, and I'm like, there's something going on here, right? I've seen a lot of people kind of speculating that she is the spy. I don't know why the fuck that would work, but she did volunteer to take them off world. Like there's something to that.
It seems uncharacteristic at this point.
It does.
Yeah, while she goes up, they then end up fighting Moff Gideon and his Death Troopers.
We saw the new Death Troopers with the kind of white, almost Mandalorian armors earlier on.
Because they thought they were Mandalorian at first, and then they're like, no.
Because they hear the jet. Yeah, and then when they're kind of following them, they lead them into the trap, and we see this kind of Imperial architecture. Yeah. And you're like, don't fucking go in there. Like,
When I was like there, I was like, oh, okay, so some of Mandalore still has power. Like, still, what's it being powered by? And then they go in there, and you see like fucking not X-Wings, but like TIE fighters and stuff, and you're like, okay, they're using this as like a factory essentially.
Basically,
And that whole bit was cool. Bo and Moff Gideon back and forth.
Like,
and then
fight me. He's got his it's like the new Mandalorian inspired Death Trooper extreme armor or whatever.
And Din gets like trapped for a while, and you're like, oh fuck. And then they're all fighting, and Paz Vizsla like saves the day with his fucking minigun, and just keeps going, and it's like,
oh yeah, and obviously we got the Praetorian Guard name drop at the start, and I just kind of didn't really think anything of it. They fucking turn up.
I was like, oh god, that's cool. In the real world, we haven't seen them since The Last Jedi, have we?
Yeah, when there was that cool throne room fight, which people have picked apart, but I think at the time was
fucking
was
great.
good fun. You know?
One of the best scenes in Star Wars, honestly. Like, it's
just
so
the back-to-back sudden like uniting. It's fucking cool.
But it was cool to see them turn up, and like it needed.
So did Din get taken off then? Because I can't remember. They like went off because they all got him with the ropes. And they just dragged him away.
They took him away, and then the rest escaped
through
with
the hole
Bo, apart from Paz Vizsla, who held them all back, kind of almost like a Boromir-esque death.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And I for a while I was like, is IG-12 going to fit through that hole? But you do see him duck through and go through at one point, and I was like, thank God.
Yeah, he can.
But I guess that means Grogu and Din are separated.
Yes, for the first time this season, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
And most of the time.
Well, no, actually, when the last time they were on Mandalore.
Maybe they shouldn't
stop going to Mandalore.
But yeah, and that's kind of where it ends.
Honestly, this was a great episode. This is back Mandalorian to its best.
This is why I messaged you after I watched it last week. I was like, have you watched the episode yet?
So I've said the last couple of weeks that this season hasn't been on the same level as the previous two seasons.
Yeah.
But this, they fucking hit it out of the park, and this was back to the Mandalorian's best.
Yeah.
And
and he puts it, we've said a couple of times, we're hoping that either the last three or at least the last two would be these kind of two-part back-to-back. The fact they're both directed by the same guy, we kind of saw it coming, but I'm really glad that it is this kind of two-part. I'm very excited. At time recording it will be tomorrow. It comes out. So if you're listening to this, you can don't switch this off, but you can go and watch Mandalorian afterwards and see how wrong our predictions are. So speaking of that, what are your predictions of the last?
So before we get to predictions, there was one funny bit when the Mandalorians first like meet each other, and Grief Karga comes up and it's like Mando, and it's like which one? There's like 500 Mandalorians.
Did you notice they were eating giant poultry? I think they cooked those chicks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think they cooked those fucking chicks.
We haven't seen them again yet, have we?
The foundlings.
Sometimes foundlings need to be eaten.
So what do you reckon's going to happen?
Predictions, I reckon Bo-Katan and Grogu will both do something cool to probably save Din and defeat Moff Gideon. Maybe Moff Gideon nearly gets the Darksaber back.
Yeah.
Maybe it's taken from Bo-Katan again and Din has it back again, and it's like, oh, you are the leader. Although I think it'd be better if Bo-Katan's left as the leader.
I think they could depending on if they're doing a season 4 or if it is going to be folded into a wider thing with Din's story. I feel like there's enough that they could probably do a season 4.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I could see Moff Gideon getting the Darksaber to complete his new look.
Yeah.
Because, he wants that all black situation, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be a great place to end the season. Them, Empire Strikes Back, them on the kind of back foot.
Yeah.
He's fully kitted up. Maybe he takes over Mandalore even bigger than before or whatever, and he's kind of starts mechanizing it or whatever.
Yeah.
And they kind of have to all run off, and maybe the factions fucking split again or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be interesting as well to see a Cap in this story with Moff Gideon, and like we said, maybe have Thrawn introduce as the
maybe
new
it'll
bad.
end with them killing Moff Gideon.
Yeah, I mean, it might even be a case that he somehow gets the Darksaber for the majority of that episode, and then Bo-Katan wins it back by killing him. That would make more sense.
Yeah.
I think he's got to get it at least once more because, like I said, it's the All Black situation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to get like at least one more big Grogu moment.
Yeah, I think
because
so. Yeah.
Maybe with the
Darksaber.
Maybe the Darksaber. He is Jedi trained.
Yeah.
He should know how to use it. But yeah, that would be pretty cool. I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah,
it's going to be great. And I forgot that because I've been watching each episode so late in the week just because of what's going on. I think I'm just going to check my calendar. I'm not doing anything tomorrow night, so I might just watch The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I will very much try to. Well, yeah.
Cool. So that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you here. Yeah. Hopefully you can come back last week. Hopefully you can come back next week and listen to episode 5 of Project Icon. Fuck me, you can tell it's the end of the pod. But if you enjoyed this, give us 5 stars on your podcast listening application. It's always appreciated. If you would tell us your thoughts on The Mandalorian or Project Icon, you can get in contact with us, can't you, Sam?
Yes, you can. If you want to send us an email, it's theprojectpod@gmail.com, or you can find all our social medias in the link tree in the episode description.
You can.
We've got clips going up on the TikTok. We've got video-ish versions of this on YouTube. I mean, it's mostly an image that just zooms in slowly, but it counts as a video, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I do a little bit of artwork for it, so...
Yeah, check out the artwork. Give it a like. Give it a subscribe.
And as Lewis said, if you want to recommend any future topics for when we finish Project Icon, you can send us our way.
Yes, but they do need to have project in the title.
Yeah, they do. They
just need to clarify that sometimes.
Yeah, and we've got Guardians of the Galaxy Silver Screen projects on their way out. So
we do.
First one will be
already out.
Second one will be out shortly after this, I'd imagine.
We'll
see what we're doing.
Yeah, we'll see what we're doing.
It's recorded.
Yeah. All right, cool. Bye.
Bye.
Jason Derulo.